Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Love 101 FM. Welcome on the Facebook page and or YouTube Live. This is Family Time. Family Time is about your issues, your relationships. It is about your at-home family, your community family, and your global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families, which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. That's Facebook, of course, friend us on Facebook at FLM Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram. Keep up with what's happening at simply FLMJA. While Family Time is a family program, we'd like to caution that it may, on odd occasions, touch on what some may consider mature subject matters. Your discretion is advised. I'm Crystal Daly Thompson. I'm your host this evening. Now, despite the festivities, at this time of year, it can be particularly hard to enjoy all and just relax when you know that there are persons who are missing in your life. It's all about family, and you look around the dining table or in the pew at the Christmas concert, or even as you watch your favorite holiday movie, that loved one is missing and is being missed. Many years may have gone, or maybe it's just been a few days. It doesn't matter. It's Christmas without you and it hurts. Let's talk about the grieving process and how to cope with how you're feeling right now. As usual, there's a lot to talk about, especially on this topic. And while we do that, we want to hear from you with as many answers to our questions as you can find. Here it is. This is the question for the afternoon. How do you handle the pain of missing a loved one at this time? How do you? Send your answers via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. You can also watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM on the Facebook page, Love 101 FM on the YouTube channel. We'll be right back. So we don't want you to go anywhere. This is a very, very intimate and very emotional topic to discuss. And we're going to discuss this with our guests this evening, Geraldine Garwood, Talitha Ford, and Shawaka Smith. Go nowhere. This is Family Time.
Pink Flame Ministries, Somerset Road, Greendale, Mandeville invites you to the annual Christmas Eve Outreach and Gospel Inspiration, celebrating the first, anticipating the second advent of Christ our Redeemer. Keynote speaker Bishop Arthur Grant of the New Testament Church of God, anointed psalmist Nicole Robinson Arkin, Cheryl Marshall, Donna Reed White Lewis, Roy Powell, Siobhan Lewis. Tuesday, December 24, 7 p.m. at Cecil Charlton Park, opposite the Mandeville Police Station. Come with your prayer, participate, lead, empower. Live outside broadcast on Love 101. Let's talk some more about the moves and the influence of Hinduism, meditation, and the New Age philosophy. And let's talk about Christmassy things like the earthly parents of Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Who were they? Why them? What kind of parents were they? Were they saved? Let's talk about it all in The Rock. Join us Tuesday, December 24, as host Bishop Steve Blair talks with Pastor Andrew Norman and Marsha McDonald on the topic, Mary and Joseph. It's all inside The Rock. Tuesday, December 4 at 10 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Yes, listeners, welcome back to Family Time on Love 101. And welcome to our special guests, Geraldine Garwood, clinical psychologist and behavior analyst, and now author. Talitha Ford and Shawaka Smith have stories of loss, and will share that and how they have been coping. How is everyone doing?
I'm okay. Thank you for asking.
I'm well in the Lord. And how are you?
Well, I'm great. I'm absolutely thankful and blessed. Thank you for asking. Yes. So now we're happy to have you guys on the show to just unpack some of the emotions and how you have been coping with loss, especially at this time when it should be a very celebratory season of the year. Now, to my audience, remember the question: how do you handle the pain of missing a loved one at this time of year? So we want you listeners to WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. You can also watch us and comment live on the Love 101 Facebook page and also on the Love 101 YouTube channel. All right, so let's go. Let's get into it. Christmas without you. That's our topic today. The problem of grieving at a time when everybody around us is having fun and all of that. How do we actually deal with that? And I'd like to ask the question, what is grief? And I'll start first with Geraldine. Of course, you are the psychologist and behavior specialist. So we'll start first by asking you that question: what is grief and why do we grieve?
Grief is a natural response to loss. Everybody grieves, and persons grieve differently and in their own way. Therefore, I will always say that grieving is personal. No two persons grieve the same way. It comes with different emotions. It can be like a roller coaster. Some days you're up, some days you are down. So grief is that response when we hear a loss, that we get certain emotional disturbances in our system, and we go through different ranges of emotions and different behavioral um, responses as well. And we also experiences different types of even spiritual responses also. So that in unpacking grief, it is all the emotions that are involved when we experience a loss.
Okay, so you described it as a range of emotions. So what are the signs of grief? So if it's a range of emotions, how could some of these signs manifest themselves?
Themselves as it relates to anger, withdrawal, isolation, depression, not eating, not sleeping, um, don't have any interest in favorite activities, some things that you used to like to do, you just don't have any interest in doing it. Not taking care of self, so poor self-care, so you're not grooming yourself anymore. You
Mm,
know, oversleeping, overeating, and also sleeping too much, right? And not sleeping as well, and not eating. So those are some of the signs that we have, especially anger, guilt as well. Some
mhm.
persons go through a range of guilt. But there is healthy grieving and also unhealthy grieving. So some of these things that people go through are really natural emotions that one may experience. But when it goes over into the complicated type now, that is when we become concerned for the griever, when it becomes complicated.
Okay, so what are some of the ways in which grieving can become complicated?
Grief, that grief is when persons begin to display what we call abnormal behavior. So we call it abnormal grieving. And so they start to do things. So they start to speak about the deceased as if in the present. They are still doing things for the deceased. They still cook for the deceased. They still prepare the deceased clothes, especially for children, as if the person is still alive, the child is still around. You know, they tidy the room, they set up the room as if the child is still present. Sometimes they will even have conversation as if they are conversating with the deceased persons. So their behavior now is gone into what we call abnormal. They become really, really depressed, severe depression, stop taking care of themselves. So they stop thinking about themselves and all they think about is deceased person. If
Yes.
the person had a phone, they would call a number randomly or very frequently throughout the day as if they are actually expecting the person to answer the phone, and some will actually be speaking on the phone to the person as if the person was on the phone. So those are some of the things that we would call abnormal. If it's somebody who would you normally meet at the bus stop, the person will go to the bus stop at the same point every evening to meet with the person, to meet the person as if they are coming off the transportation. So that's what we call abnormal grieving. That's when it gone into complicated grieving.
All right. So, based on what you're saying, of course, I'm no trained psychologist, but it sounds to me that persons are well, can go through a mental breakdown, and to the point of some kind of psychosis. Then, when they begin to operate like that.
Yes, they do. They hallucinate at times too, so they can have a mental breakdown. So grieving can lead to depression if the person don't get the correct therapeutic help. So they need that therapy to help them so that they don't go into that phase of complicated grief. So there's healthy grieving and unhealthy grieving. And the job of the therapist is to really take the person through the stages of grief, identify what stages they're at. So they're generally a myriad of stages, but one of the famous theory is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, 1969, and she outlined a series of stages where she talked about the person will go through anger, the person will go through depression, the person will experience bargaining, the person will reach
Today, for
acceptance. So
someone who may be experiencing the kind of
Oh,
heartache
all
that
right. So
only comes at
I need you to
Christmas
hold that
time,
thought for me.
there are
when
several um, stages that the person will go through, and it is important that as a therapist you take the person through the stages, so you let them go through the different stages in your therapeutic process. So why are you angry, what is it you're angry about, who do you blame, that's so we can go through it, and then you take them through the different stages, because if they don't go through the stages properly, that's when they can go over into complicated grief. So
Okay.
one of the things is that most persons end up, if they don't get the right therapeutic help, they will be stuck into the depression.
All right. So let me ask you this question: how long should grieving last? Because persons might be grieving for several years, and people might be thinking that, boy, this person has passed. This person has passed 10, 15 years ago. You're still feeling this way. You're still allowing that to affect you. How long should grieving last?
All right, as I always say and will always say, there is no time frame for grief as long as you grieve healthily. What should happen is that when you're grieving, you will never forget the person lost. But what you do, you will take them on the journey of life with you. So when you get your therapeutic help, you can, when you remember the person, it can move from bitter to sweet. So you can have that bittersweet moment, because you will always remember. I can use my personal story of my own father. I love my father dearly. I have lost my father a number of years now, and I
Yes.
still remember my father. But when I remember him now, it is not that sadness, that heartache, but it is more of a bittersweet moment. I can remember the memories with him, the times we talk, and I will smile. Sometimes there's a tear, but I can deal with it because I have reached that place of acceptance, knowing that my father will never come back again. I will never see him again. But I take his memory with me on life's journey. So we don't get over grief, we get through grief. But
Okay.
oftentimes that is the mishap, and persons tend to say to persons, your mother died 10 years now, you so and so, why are you still grieving? No, there is no time bound for grief. It's just that the person must grieve healthily, and it is important that you take the memories of the deceased with you, and you can get from that place of bitterness to sweetness as you think about the person.
Okay, awesome. Now, I want to tell my listeners to remember, how do you handle the pain of missing a loved one at this time of year? That's the question we're asking this evening. So we want you to call us. We want you to share your views. We want to hear what you have to say, and we want you to send your answers to WhatsApp, via texting, and also via voice notes, no less than 30 seconds, to 876-997-3125, and try to keep those voice notes very short, as I said. You can also watch us and comment live on the Love 101 Facebook page and on the YouTube channel, Love 101 FM. And just so you know, the numbers for the FLM head office in Kingston are 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. Of course, you can reach out if you need counseling. Stick around for more advice from Geraldine Garwood, of course, psychologist and behavioral analyst, and more. Of course, we'll be talking to Talitha Ford and Shawaka Smith. We're going to a break. We'll be right back.
What's that one gift you've longed for?
My own home.
Build or buy your own home with financing from CIBC Caribbean, and we'll gift you up to $500,000 towards your legal fees, 50% off your loan application fee, up to 95% financing. And if you switch your mortgage to us, take the gift of no switching cost, up to $1.5 million. Plus, we're giving more with double the chance to win one of 3 cash prizes of up to $800,000. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/joy of giving. Terms and conditions apply.
It's a one in a million feeling. When it start to ring, everyone starts to sing. Gifts keep on giving. Christmas enjoy every year.
Flow makes every day better by Christmasing with you. Everyone who signs up for Yard and Road for only $5,300 plus GTC gets a $25,000 supermarket card. Plus, 5 lucky customers could win extra cash of $1 million each.
Christmasing is the most fun.
Offer ends December 31, 2024. Conditions apply.
Yeah. Double the energy, double the vibe, everything. Yeah. Double 7, it a the drink. It's the smoothest premium tasting, better than a bull when it rages. Yes, double 7 one with ratings. Double the energy, double the vibe, double the energy drink. The drink for you, rest.
Here again, Bible Society of the West Indies will be having its pre-Christmas store-wide sale December 16 to 24. Discounts range from 15% to 80%. Come and visit us at 24 Hadley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, opposite the Halfway Tree Municipal Court. Come get your Bibles, books, devotionals, and other scripture resources for adults and children at discounted prices. It's the Bible Society's pre-Christmas store-wide sale December 16 to 24, 2024. Kevin Downswell, Rondell Positive, DJ Nicholas, John Mark Wigan, Petra K, Prince On, Fabian Wright, DJ Rebirth, and DJ Chinny, MC Nadine Blair. Pre-sold 2,000, 3,000 at the gate, VIP 6,000, pre-sold 7,500 at the gate, and under 500 at the gate. It's at Fontana Pharmacy in Mandeville, Tate's Pharmacy in Clarendon. StoreOpen.com/realignment 2024, 762037030. Boxing Day, Thursday, December 26, 5:30 p.m. Mandeville Primary and Junior High School Playfield.
My Mega Mart, best value by far.
With so much to do in one location, make Mega Mart your one-stop shop. Pick up your groceries and houseware needs, grab a bite and pay some bills, fill your prescriptions and see the beauty products in our pharmacy, all in one amazing location. My Mega Mart, the best value by far.
My Mega Mart, best value by far.
The management and the staff of the Jamaica Customs Agency extend the very best wishes to you and your family for a safe, peaceful, and enjoyable holiday. Whether you're effecting clearance at the port, traveling to and from the airport, or undertaking other transactions, we urge you to travel safely. Use good judgment and stay within the speed limit. We thank you for your support throughout 2024 and look forward to a healthy, prosperous, and productive new year. Happy New Year from Jamaica Customs.
All right, listeners, welcome back. This is Family Time. And of course, we're discussing Christmas without you. We're talking about the grieving process, and we have our psychologists with us. We have Geraldine Garwood, clinical psychologist, and she's now an author. We have Talitha Ford and Shawaka Smith, who've actually experienced loss in this time. So we want you guys to call us, talk to us, and tell us how you handle the pain of missing a loved one at this time of the year. We want you to share that with us, and our guests are going to help us to unpack that. So now we have Talitha Ford and Shawaka Smith. We heard from Miss Garwood earlier as she unpacked what is grieving and how that looks, and what is a time frame. We heard before going on the break that there is no time frame for grieving. You go through grieving. It's a process. So we want to hear from Talitha. Let's start with you first. Talitha, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Could you just share with us, who was the person you lost, and how long ago was that, and how do you cope each year?
My big brother, we lost him in 2021. Each year, Christmas isn't normally the same, so we spend it how we'd spend any other day. We just go through the day regularly. Sometimes we cry and we just continue because he was a very chirpy and happy person. So for us to be sad continuously, it wouldn't really make any sense. And if he's all sad, then that's when he would lose his chirpiness. So we try to remain happy as much as we can because he's a happy person, and thinking about him, sometimes it brings us tears, but mostly we're just happy about it. Not
Okay. All right. Shawaka, you want to share your story?
Good afternoon. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My story is about my grandma. I lost her 8 years ago, and she was the life of the party. Actually, she was born in my birth month, so every time it gets like to September 1st, she was born on September 1st. So it all starts from September. We really miss her so much, and she would usually be the life of the party. She would be the one with all the jokes. She would be the one like to cheer us up. She always come with some joke and something to just let us laugh and have a good time. And know that she's not here, we're just thinking back and saying, oh, if she was here, if she was here, but she's not. So all we can do is just sit and talk about the times when she was here and what she would do, and all of those stories from when she was among the life of the living.
Yes. So she passed around Christmas time?
No. Well, she passed in October. So
Oh,
somewhat close to Christmas.
right. So by the time Christmas time comes around, you'd be missing grandma because what she would be doing, and how she would be playing different roles as a grandma throughout the Christmas season. I can definitely understand that. Could you share with us, and then the stages of grief that you went through, and then I'm going to ask Miss Garwood just to kind of shed some light on some of these things that will be said in terms of the stages. So, Shawaka, you want to tell us the first feeling, that how you felt at first when your grandma passed?
Okay, sure. So I was on my way home from school and I saw my aunt and she was crying. And I was like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? She was like, Mommy died. I'm like, which mommy you talking about? She's like, Mommy died. Grandma is dead. I said no. So my first stage was denial. I didn't believe her. Like I was like, you're lying. we went home and I went in her room. I look under the dresser, I look under the bed, I look everywhere. I'm like, ain't no way. I'm like, Grandma is not dead. Grandma is here. You guys are lying. I saw everyone crying and I'm like, this is all a joke. Like, everyone is just pranking me. That's how I felt. I'm like, this is all a prank. Like, guys, they can drop the facade now. Like, Grandma is here, right? They were like, no, she's gone. So at first, I didn't really accept it. They started planning for the funeral, the night, all of that. And I was not really involved because, as I said, up to this day, I still can't believe that grandma is still not here. So I haven't really like went through the stages where I cried. I cried a little bit, but I didn't cry that much because I was only 8 at the time. So I still didn't understand what it meant by grandma was not here. So I am still kind of in denial because I'm like, what do you mean by grandma is gone? So I didn't really accept it at the time. Her night, I was like kind of distant from everyone. I was in the room. I actually went to sleep. I slept the whole night. The funeral, I wasn't really talking. I don't even think I remember what happened at the funeral. That's if I was even in the church. I didn't like, I didn't believe it that grandma was not here. I watched her, go down in the grave, and my dad was crying, and I was looking at him and, seeing him hurt like that, like that's his mom. So I was really like, at that time, I shed a few tears. I was like, I was seeing my dad crying over his mom, so I felt some type of way for him. But then I'm like, this is my grandma. But at the same time, I was in denial. I'm like, grandma is gone. But
Yes. So it's a lot to process.
it's really a lot to process. So I didn't really understand it at that time. But
Yes.
growing up and I see some things happening in the family, and I'm saying to myself that if grandma was here, this wouldn't have happened. If grandma was here, maybe she wouldn't have done that, maybe he wouldn't have done that. So I'm really missing her because I'm like, if she was here, certain things wouldn't have happened because she would have been here for me. And then it really comes from a state of like, honest, I said, I don't know, but I wasn't talking to her the time that she died because a simple thing. I told grandma, you can do this for me, and she said, yes, I'm going to do it. And she took the money and she bought alcohol with it, and she died because of the alcohol. So I was really like, you could have just taken the money and you could have just cooked. I told her to take the money and cook, and you took the money, you bought alcohol, and she died, and I didn't get to tell her goodbye. And
Yes. So you go through a lot of through a lot of feeling, because what could you have done? Was it whose fault? So you go through a lot of feelings, and we're gonna talk to to Miss Garwood. I'm tempted to say Dr. Garwood, to unpack this a little bit more for us. But we what we're seeing here is just a very big mix of feelings, all over the place because of your denial, crying. You're feeling things for your father, you're feeling things for yourself. So it's a lot of things that are happening at once. We want to remind our listeners that you're listening to Family Time right here live on Love 101 FM. Also, we're live on the YouTube page, Love 101 FM, and Facebook. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries. For a special media interaction, we want you to tell us, how do you handle the pain of missing a loved one at this time of year? Let us know via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. You can also watch us and comment live on the Love 101 Facebook page and again on our YouTube. We want you to hear from us. We want to hear from you, rather, this evening, as we share on Christmas without you. It's break time, but just before, let's get a word from Reverend Mike in this episode of Word to Flesh Moments with Reverend Mike. Don't go away.
Scriptures today for someone who may be experiencing the kind of heartache that only comes at Christmas time when we miss someone. Psalm 34. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 73. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. 2 Corinthians 1. God comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves received from God. Here are two powerful Bible truths that we can learn from these scriptures that can help us during this Christmas. Number one, God is available to help. God can supernaturally fill the gap and take away the heartache you feel with His supernatural presence. But not everyone may have the kind of trust and faith in God that allows the supernatural to work, which leads us to the second Bible truth. Number two, you must make yourself available to help. If you have experienced God's supernatural help in the past, you must make yourself available to allow God to use you to fill the gap and take away the grief someone might be feeling at Christmas time. For those who don't have the faith to trust God supernaturally, He will use you as His representative at this time. So let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Matthew 5. I'm Reverend Mike from Fellowship Tabernacle, and we just had a WTF moment.
The time by Grace Could Move is
now 2 minutes past 6 o'clock.
It's here again. Bible Society of the West Indies will be having its pre-Christmas store-wide sale December 16 to 24. Discounts range from 15% to 80%. Come and visit us at 24 Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, opposite the Halfway Tree Municipal Court. Come get your Bibles, books, devotionals, and other scripture resources for adults and children at discounted prices. It's the Bible Society's pre-Christmas store-wide sale December 16 to 24, 2024.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Always a good move when you're moving with Grace.
The best way to start the year is with family and friends at Mystic Kim's Family Festival. January 1st at Hope Gardens. Bounce, spin, right play in the fantastic fun zone and cool down in our water park. But there's more. Mascot parade, games arcade, fantastic train ride, bingo, and our biggest food village. 1,200 children, 3 years and over 800 and toddlers free. Funfest Family Festival, Wednesday, January 1st, New Year's Day at Hope Gardens. Gates open at 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Come out early. Cream 1 Plus growing up is not a breast milk substitute. It is a milk product suited to babies older than 12 months. Breastfeeding should continue for as long as possible.
Jamaica, my name is Fredrine Simpson, Public Relations Officer, and I am Monique Bowen, Media Student. On behalf of our Distinction College family, we would like to thank the entire Jamaica for making us the #1 City and Guilds ABE and CSEC private training provider in Jamaica. We offer over 70 vocational, professional, and academic programs. Start online and face-to-face classes in geriatric, pediatric, psychiatric, and practical nursing, early childhood, childcare, phlebotomy, pharmacy, pharmacy, and medical lab technician. Housekeeping, food preparation, waitering, bartending, travel tourism, plumbing, motor vehicle, electrical installation, AC, cosmetology, security, customer service, receptionist, supervisory, project, HR, and business management, CSEC, CAPE, and many more. Registered for any program and get City and Girls Math and English classes for free. Visit us in Kingston, Spanish Town, St. Elizabeth, Ocho. Call 356-4167. Happy holiday and a prosperous new year.
Faith Claim Ministries, Somerset Road, Greendale, Mandeville, invites you to the annual Christmas Eve outreach and gospel inspiration, celebrating the first, anticipating the second advent of Christ our Redeemer. Keynote speaker Bishop Arthur Grant of the New Testament Church of God, anointed psalmist Nicole Robinson Arkin, Cheryl Marshall, Donna Reed White Lewis, Desroy Powell, Siobhan Lewis. Tuesday, December 24, 7 p.m. at Cecil Charlton Park, opposite the Mandeville Police Station. Come with your praise, participate, leave empowered. Live outside broadcast on Love 101. Every Thursday morning, Love 101 shares with you power-packed messages, words of encouragement, and testimonies of God's miraculous power. You get all of that in the Don't Give Up broadcast, brought to you by Celebration Church at the Portmore Skating Rink in the Portmore Mall with Pastor Prophet Michael Carter. Be sure to stay tuned to Love 101 for the Don't Give Up broadcast. Get the word you need to start your day right. The Don't Give Up broadcast, Thursdays at 5:15 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
All right, welcome back. The time is now 6:05. You are tuned to Love 101. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. Family Life Ministries provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Our show this evening is about Christmas without you. Of course, we have two texts that have come in. We have one from Sister Higgins and one from Rita Hines. And Rita is writing in from Brooklyn. Let's start with Sister Higgins. Sister Higgins says that her mother died on the 25th of December. That's Christmas Day. And so there is no more Christmas. I'd like to know if this happened recently or how long ago, because the pain is so real that Sister Higgins says that there's no more Christmas. I'm wondering how long she has endured this pain and how many Christmases have passed with her feeling this way. Sister Rita Hines in Brooklyn says that after her mother passed, she would look through the window to see if she's still sitting there on her veranda, and she had to cry out to God to help her. And each time she now remembers her mother, she just simply thanks God for her life. Wow. I can only imagine these feelings that persons have. I suffered a loss at a significant point in my life. This particular person would also celebrate his wedding anniversary in December. And sometimes when his birthday passes, and recently the 19th of December passed, and that signified his anniversary. He got married to one of my dear cousins, and each time these dates pass, I remember, and I understand the pain of missing such a person. Sometimes you may even see somebody that resembles looking like the person, and you wished that it was them coming again, or have returned. But such is life. Now, we said we were going to ask Miss Garwood, Geraldine Garwood, who is our clinical psychologist on the show this evening, and she's our behavior analyst as well, and an author. We're going to ask her to talk about her book a little bit if we do get the time. But we want you to help us, Miss Garwood, to talk about the stages of grieving. So we heard Shawaka talk about looking at her father crying, thinking it's his mother, but it's her grandmother. The feelings, boy, grandma, you shouldn't have done that. that kind of thing with the alcohol. But boy, what could I have done? So there are there's a multiplicity of feelings just mixing around, but how do we unpack that, the stages of grieving? What does that look like?
I think I mentioned some earlier, but for Shawaka, the age of the experience plays a vital role. So Shawaka was 8 years. How you tell a child that someone died is very important.
Yeah.
And it's something we have to learn. So she got the news in a way that was rather, shocking, right? So the process for her should be you sit her down, you kind of ensure that she's calm and you kind of break the news, right? It doesn't mean that she may not have experienced shock, but it could have been different for her. So the way how the news is broken to a child when somebody dies is very, very important. So Shawaka had a myriad of emotions because she was angry with her grandma because she blamed the alcohol for her death. So if her grandma didn't drink the alcohol, she wouldn't have died. At the same time, she was also sad for her dad because her dad was actually crying at the when his mother's body was going down, and she seen her dad being sad, was crying, and I think she possibly was even more crying for her dad than her grandma because she was still at a place of denial in relation to her grandma. That is something that I think we should understand. And so for her, she felt some guilt at that age, and children normally feels guilt. Children go through a lot of guilt when there's a loss of someone that is close to them. They often wonder if they are at fault why this happened. And so because she also have unfinished business, and when you have unfinished business, with the deceased, that makes the pain even harder because you didn't get to say a last word. You didn't get to say sorry if you need to say sorry. You didn't get to make amends with the person, and then the person just you just come and hear that the person is gone and they will be no more. So for Shawaka, she was in denial and shock. So she was shocked at the news and she went into denial and she experienced some guilt at that time, and she also blamed. So she blamed her grandma because her grandmother used alcohol, and she made an assumption that it's because of the alcohol why her grandmother died. So she had a myriad of emotion going on for her. And for her as a child, I know that as a culture, we are still not fully embracing the need for grief therapy. But at that time, she should have gone through some grief therapy. And I still believe that today, Shawaka needs to go through that to come to a sense of peace within herself as it relates to her grandma. But even for Talitha's experience was more in adolescence. And adolescence too also goes through a difficult time when they have a loss, and because they're at that stage of identity versus role confusion, and sometimes they find their identity in their loved ones. And I think for Talitha, it seemed like her brother was like a role model to her. She loved him, she looked up to him, and so there are a lot of emotions bottled up inside. And so what she shared earlier is that, on that day, on Christmas Day, she treated it like a normal day, any other day. But because her brother was a chirpy person, she just tried to be chirpy on that day in celebrating his memory. That's not a bad approach. Because what I would say to one of the persons who sent in the text, that for the one who lost her mother on Christmas Day, that is a difficult loss and a difficult day to lose any family member, and especially a mother. But I would say to her that what she could do, and we encourage persons, what can I do in memory of my mother on Christmas Day? What is it that my mother loved to do? Did she like to share? Did she love children? Could I make some little gifts and go out and give children in memory of my mother? Those are some of the things that we would encourage her to do as therapists. Do something in honor, in the memory of of your mother. And while you keep giving and doing something that your mother would have loved, you will
Yes.
find that a sense of ease begin to come, right? Because you feel like, you're honoring your mother.
Yes, I want you to hold some. I want you to hold that thought because I've seen where memorials are done or something is done in memory to that person. But I want you to hold that thought as we're coming up on our final break. This is Family Time, listeners, right here live on Love 101. You can also watch us and listen live on our YouTube channel. It was produced by Family Life Ministries. For our social media interaction, we want you to text or voice note your answers to the question, how do you handle the pain of missing a loved one at this time? Do so by sending voice notes and texts to 876-997-3125. Try to keep the voice notes no more than 30 seconds. You can also watch us and comment live on the Love 101 Facebook page and on the YouTube channel. We want to hear from you. Don't go anywhere. We're now up on the break.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Some call it home, but Jamaicans say yard. Whether it's our house or country, we love we yard, especially at Christmas. There's only one store with only Jamaican products for your yard. It's Things Jamaican. Take the yard with new yard brands this Christmas. Shop 30 new yard brands in food, fashion, and decor. Get exclusive deals, discounts, free gifts, and social media prizes. Check thingsjamaicanshopping.com for more. Things Jamaican, home of authentic Jamaican brands.
There's a need for a place like this. 8 crucial portfolios under one roof. For your convenience with expedience, your experience is the real difference. Where policy impacts change. Here at McJC, feel the difference.
See the difference of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
See the difference.
The McJC.
You can feel it. McJC.
Every Saturday, 7 p.m. to midnight on Love 101. You're invited to travel in time with music at its best. It's the Gospel Music Machine with the Gospel Music Master, Della Wilkinson. From your favorite choir music to Christian contemporary, a touch of reggae and the Caribbean feel.
Gospel Music Machine with Nigel Wilkinson on
Nigel playing the tune. Yep, the Gospel Music Master is still playing the tunes down below. And he's definitely your music master. Saturday, 7 p.m. to midnight. You won't regret the link. It's on the family station, Love 101.
That is all I need.
Yes, listeners, welcome back. The time is now 6:17. You are tuned to Love 101. This is Family Time brought to you by Family Life Ministries. FLM produces counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Remember, you can tune in to the program via the Love 101 Facebook page and or YouTube channel. We're streaming live on those platforms. So today it's Christmas Without You. Our guests are Geraldine Garwood, Talitha Ford, and Shawaka Smith. Now we have a voice note that we would like to play as one of our listeners have submitted that to us. Over to you, studio.
Pleasant good evening. I like the question, how we feel when we lost someone in this present moment. Just the other day, I put away my sister. I went to spare a visit and I have to come back before I'll be here, like next year sometime early. But right now, as I talk about grief, sometimes I'm down, sometimes I'm up. And I wonder why is it that I don't energetic? And I get to understand that that is how when you lost someone, the energy goes. So I lost so many of them up to my husband, brother. So many of them, fathers and mother, nephew, uncle, brother. Lord have mercy, so many of them. So when you remember them, man, it's like you hear them calling your name. I just want to give God thanks for keeping me. He's in me, so keeping me right now. And I'm just asking you when you're praying to pray for me. Missionary Highcamp.
Good afternoon, ladies. I cannot help but to say something regarding myself and my adopted mother. I found myself after death blaming myself because I know the day before I left the hospital, I told her I was coming for her. And the hospital told me that they would be sending her to do uh, a CTC scan in the morning. When I went to the hospital and waited for her to wake, she never wake. And she remained in the hospital until about a week. Then they gave her to me with a tube through her nostril to feed her. And she never communicated ever to me again up until the day she died. And even when the day she died, I was at school. But I never forget the morning before I left home. I said, God, there are two things you will do. One out of the two, it's either you're going to take her home or heal her, but she is not supposed to lay down there suffering like that, cannot communicate to me. I cannot communicate to her. God, you have to do something. And it was the same day I got the call at the front desk. And the helper said to me, Mom has passed. But I still live with that guilt to say, if I did not allow her to do that CTC scan, probably she would still be alive because her mom lived until 105 and she died at the age of 90. So I understand it's not easy. I handle the pain by putting her photograph where I see it very often. I see it every day, and I ensure that her grave is always kept, well kept. The tomb is well kept. Yeah.
Wow. You know, I'm thinking some of our listeners might be thinking, boy, it's just 2 days before Christmas, and these conversations are very saddening, very heavy. But this is the reality of life. While some persons are cutting cake and drinking sorrel, eating ham, and they are very merry, a lot of persons are indeed broken-hearted. And this is why we do this program. This is why we have services like what is offered at Family Life Ministries. Now, we want to remind you of our guests this evening, even though we're heading to the latter part of the program. We have with us Geraldine Garwood, who is a counseling psychologist and behavioral analyst. She's also an author. And we have Talitha Ford and Shawaka Smith, who have shared their situation with us and how they have been coping. Now, we heard from Talitha earlier about the loss of her brother, but also too, I want to bring you back, Miss Garwood, to talk about the memorial, different things that can be done in honor of the deceased. For example, I went to one of the most heartbreaking situations to witness just the sudden death of this beautiful, brilliant young lady who passed away earlier this year by drowning. And when I went to her funeral, her parents dedicated. It was something like it's not a monument, but they had rocks where persons wrote messages. She was a lover of nature, and persons wrote messages on rocks that would have been placed in a garden that that would be prepared in memory of her. And they gave trees out for the planting. So wherever those trees were planted, persons would remember, it's because I went to this particular person's funeral, I got this tree. And those things would symbolize the connection and the meaning of the life of the deceased. So share with us what your take is on that.
I think I commend that. I think that is commendable, and those are some of the things that are encouraged, that we do things in memory of the person. So if the person liked poetry, you could write some poems, and if you're persons that are involved in community with children or in the church, you can use those poems, and children can memorize them, say them in honor of the persons. You can plant a tree in their memory. You can start a fund in the person's memory, whether it be a scholarship fund, a fund that can aid anybody. If the person is a love of the elderly, you can do something probably once per month. You feed some elderly persons. So there are myriad of things. You can journal, and then at the end of your journal, you can even publish that piece of journal, that journal that you have. So there are several things that we encourage that persons do. So the memorial is very good when you do things in honor of the person, in their memory, that help to ease the pain that the individual experiences. But I also recommend that the persons also get therapeutic help, because each person that goes through grief needs some help as to how to cope with grieving, right? So how to cope, like they get exercise, they try to become sociable again, because some persons cut off themselves from other persons. You get involved in activities, and especially activities that the person deceased liked. If you have share similar likes, you can get in activities like those, so you ensure that you exercise, you eat right, and for some persons, like the first voice note, the lady talk about her faith. Some persons rely heavily on their faith, and if your faith works for you, then you draw upon your faith to help you. Because what, especially the person, the first voice note, she talk about a number of grief. She experienced what we would call cumulative grief. So she's grieving more than one person's, and it keep happening probably, rapidly, right? And so she may not have time to grieve for this one. By the time this person um died, another person, and then another person, and another person. And so she's not able to understand the emotion. She probably is asking, who am I really grieving for? I'm not even sure if I'm grieving for my mother, if I'm grieving for my father, if I'm grieving for my brother, if I'm grieving for my friend, because so many grief at once. And so she need to get into a space where she can unpack each of them and deal with the emotion in relation to each of the grief, right? So
Yes,
she
yes.
can, because different grief, there are different types of grief. So it depends. Maybe she has experienced a traumatic grief at this point. She may have experienced anticipatory grief because she was anticipating this particular loss. So the different types of grief is important also. And so if you experience cumulative grief, that makes the grief even more complex for the
Wow.
individual as well.
Cumulative grief.
Right.
Cumulative grief. All right. I want you to give me 2 points as we're coming to the close of the show very quickly. The time is just going, going, going. But what role does the church play in the lives of those who are grieving? What role? Just a 1 point, and then
One
just
point. This is a
yeah,
and this is a very big thing for me, because I
two
don't
minutes
think
to wrap up.
I don't think the church really understand fully the grieving process. And
Yes.
so faith and grief is important. So I mean, I will utilize this time to tell persons that they can get the book, An Affair with Grief. And in that I dealt with the role of the church and grief, but faith and grief, right? Because sometimes the church spiritualize grief, and use a lot of scriptures to cover over and say, don't grieve as one without hope, and God knows what best. But we are dealing with real emotions here, and the church should have an open space where persons can talk about their grief, and we listen to them and we support them in whatever way we can. And of course, that would involve prayer, but we ensure that we are practical. We take a practical approach that also involves prayer. But support for the person is very important.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Miss Garwood. Thanks for being here with us, listeners. If you have questions of a personal nature or are concerned about a friend or family member, call us for more information on our services or for our counselors in Kingston and other parts of the island. Contact our head office at 876-920-1034. That's 876-920-1034 or 926-8101. That's 926-8101. Note that for appointments and information on costs, you must call the offices. Otherwise, to keep up to date with what's happening on FLM and for our other programs, check us out on our new Facebook page at FLM-Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries-FLMJA, and on Instagram at simply FLMJA. Before we leave you, here's a reminder taken from Nehemiah 8, verse 10. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Of course, we will grieve, but we know that the Lord is our strength. Join us again next week for another informative program. Thanks again to our special guests, Geraldine Garwood, and of course, Shawana and Talitha. We thank you so much for sharing your stories. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale. Thanks to Derval Graham for piloting us through this hour. And of course, you have a great week and Merry Christmas when it comes. This has been Family Time. Stay good, walk good, love God.